Happy weekend, citizens of the Grateful Nation. Glad to have you here. Glad to see you. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the I'm Doing Great podcast. Before we start, I have some announcements. SonoranDefense.com. Go to it. Use code IDG10 to get 10% off at checkout on your gun magazines, on your Glock stippling work, on your accessories, all that good stuff. Go get it. Also, NimiSkincare.com. Hey, there's a link down there. There's probably a link on the screen right now. 10% off. Go use it. Nimi Skincare is great. I don't really have a lot to say about it just yet, but I know they don't give your money to woke corporations. They don't do it. They make your face look nice, and Gina's going to show you soon how nice the face looks.
For women only.
For women only. Not by women. I'm sure a lot of different people make the product.
That's fine. But
Okay.
For women.
NimiSkincare.com. The link's in the description. Also, Van Man Shop. If you guys want some balm, get some balm. They use 100% grass-fed bison tallow and honey in their balms. They've got cool tooth powder, not toothpaste, but tooth powder. No toxins, no chemicals. You got to pay full price. Can't do anything about that. I'm sorry. We like their product, though, and they like the show. They don't do discounts, which, you know what? I respect them for that. You know what? No discounts, guys. Pay all the money. Okay? Van Man Shop.
I want
Links
to
in the
try the
description.
toothpaste powder. I haven't tried that.
It looks good. It's like
Does it?
crushed eggshell, activated charcoal, and something about there's coconut something in it. Usually anything coconut. Carly made this fantastic like fudge banana bread the other day. Put coconut Cool Whip on it by the brand So Delicious or something like that. You ever heard of So Delicious?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We have a return guest. This is like return guest number 6 or 7, I think.
Wow.
Alex Feinberg is in the studio today.
Hey.
You guys made me think I was special before you told me I was number 6 or 7 to return.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that, bud.
The first return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have lied.
No, people will know.
Is what we
Maybe I
should
can be
have
the
done.
first third time guest. I don't know if there's been any.
There
What's the
hasn't been a
record?
third time guest.
Okay, we gotta have a good performance.
Fick,
then.
we were talking about having
Oh,
Fick
right.
back.
Okay, so you're tied with about maybe 4 people,
Okay,
So
I think.
tied for first.
Fick, Bryson,
Fick, Bryson, Amir, John Doyle.
John Doyle. I think that's it.
Someone else, right?
Not Sav. Not Sav. I was going to say her, but not her.
The return, there probably is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who's up there.
Put the leaderboard up. I'll win.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. What are we talking about today?
There's a few crazy things going on. Do we want to start with the London story first?
Okay, we'll start with that.
The Teresa story?
Yeah, and then to end it, we do have questions. We have some interesting questions.
Good.
Stuff for Alex about diet,
Yeah.
and lifting weights and working out.
Yes.
Getting jacked and tan.
I don't think there were any thoughts questions.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I'm fed up with those.
Look in the camera and tell them that you're fed up.
I'm fed up with those.
I can actually deal with those. For whatever reason, I don't have the same antipathy as Gina or Alexander Cortez or
Exactly. I can't do it.
Preeti about the thoughts. I know what you guys mean.
Thoughts?
Oh, wait, hold on. Also, before we move on,
Thoughts on
Adriano,
fasting?
thank you. Let's hit camera number 4 here. Guys, go to I'mDoingMerch.com. Pick yourself up an abolish daycare
That's
shirt.
a great one.
Look at this. You got a white girl with dreads, cultural appropriation, who wants to abolish daycare. So let's do that, guys. I'mDoingMerch.com.
myself one.
We have a sale going on, 15% off. Use the code SALE100, and our 100th order will get a free thing. Whatever's on the site, they get it for free if they want. One thing. Yeah. Gina's like, why would you do that? Don't give away free stuff.
No. It's okay.
Okay, good.
Only to special
So you can
people.
get the
100%.
sweatshirt that I'm wearing. This is the Newport sweatshirt. It's great. It's awesome. I'm wearing it later today to the Matt Walsh.
When's the last
thing.
time you smoked a Newport?
Ooh,
It's been a long time.
2011, maybe. I don't
Mine
know.
was like 2008.
I've got filterless cigarettes in my Kilo Tactical pouch. Yeah, that I'm gonna have a fanny pack on later, which I did deploy in the when I went to the Pride parade.
Is that for bartering if you get thrown in jail, or
Maybe.
is that for use?
Well, they'll take it away.
Oh,
You just shove it up your...
yeah.
Oh,
Cavity.
can we make Alex a little bit uncomfortable? Because before the camera started rolling, I said, "Are you Jewish?" And he says, "No, my dad was." But he did.
He still is.
He is.
He
Right.
hasn't quit.
He's still alive.
I have a question.
These
for you
hard
guys.
J's
For
on the
Alex,
show.
why do you think when people say, "Oh, the Jews control the media," why do the Jews go, "Oh, no, we don't. No, it's not that." How come they don't say, "Yeah, we do. So what"?
I think a lot of it is like if you read The Art of War. Well, okay. So first of all, I think of all the media outlets, I don't think 100% of them are controlled by Jews. I think probably a highly disproportionate
99.
amount. I don't think it's 90. I don't. I was going to say Ben Shapiro's not Jewish, but obviously he is.
Right.
I don't think he would be construed as part of the mainstream quote unquote Jewish media. But let's assume that it's a disproportionate amount, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Say if Jewish people are 4% of the population, they control 40% of media outlets. I don't know. I think a lot of it starts maybe 100 years ago or before. Certainly, if you are prominent, you don't want people to realize what power that you may have.
Right. I've heard
Right.
this,
So
yeah.
I think like, a lot of modernity convinces people that you show your alpha status by buying cars that you can't afford, by buying houses that you can't afford, by, really being a conspicuous consumer and showing everybody how powerful you are. But if you actually pay attention to the most powerful people, they pretend to be weaker than they really are. And if you're strong and you pretend to be weak, then, fewer people will get in your way. If you're weak and you pretend to be strong, there's some advantages to that in certain situations. But I think a lot of it's simply like, art of war combined with game theory. I have not done any meaningful research on, like Jewish conspiracies applied to the entire, ethnic group. I've done research as it relates to particular individuals or particular families, but as far as I'm aware, there's not some like global coordination between all of them. But
There could be.
I don't know.
There could be. There might be.
Maybe.
I saw this really funny meme. There's a black guy sitting at a computer and he's sitting there typing and he's saying, white people are evil for starting the Atlantic slave trade. And he hits enter and everyone starts applauding. And he's like, the black people in Africa that sold them to the white people are also evil. And everyone starts clapping. And he's like, the Jewish people are evil for supplying them the trade ships. And then someone comes along and is like, hold up. You did not just say that Jews were evil. I'm here to cancel you and take away all your money. And I was like, whoa,
That's
yeah,
how it
that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
So Alex, what's going on?
Busy
what's
week,
new?
came through Miami earlier, recorded with Pomp on his podcast on Tuesday.
Who's that?
Anthony Pompliano.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who's that?
I mean,
Crypto investor, VC, runs a fund, runs a media empire.
What's the name of his podcast? Is Pomp?
It's the Pomp podcast.
Oh, he could have missed an opportunity
even
for
know he had
Pomp and Circumstance.
he probably considered it.
I don't know. He's a smart guy. He probably chose what he chose for a reason.
Okay.
So recorded with him in Miami, caught up with a Vanderbilt baseball teammate when I was in Miami, as well as some cryptocurrency colleagues who were working in Miami. Flew over to Nashville on Wednesday and spoke with the Vandy baseball team yesterday. So did a little 20-minute chat on being a competitor, winning, the doors it opens in life, just kind of sharing with those guys the experience that I got from playing at Vanderbilt for 4 years and afterwards. What's crazy, and I was telling Coach Corbin this after the discussion, was that when I'm looking at the front row and I'm looking at the freshmen, they weren't even born yet when I set foot on Vanderbilt campus, right? I'm 36 years old. I went on campus when I was 18, or I committed to Vanderbilt when I was 17.
Oh, right, yeah.
So this was 2003, and I was telling them, I took my official visit to Vanderbilt September 11th, 2003. And I'm like, wait, some of these guys aren't 19 years old. Like they were not even born September 11th, 2003. So it's a little bit odd being that old, but feeling like I'm very much part of that environment. So that was cool, spending time with those guys. Did a little stream with Mark Lobliner last night, and then had an awesome 20-ounce Kansas City strip steak with about 10 oysters, some lobster mac and cheese, truffle fries last night.
Where'd you go?
We went to Hall's. What is this? It's Hall's Eatery, Hall's Chop House. That's
Okay.
what it is.
I've never been
Excellent.
there. Have you been
On
there?
West End. West
Good?
End. Oh yeah, awesome.
I'll put it on my list.
Coach Corbin and his wife took me and Mark as their guests, and it was awesome. It was probably, I don't even know the last time I had a restaurant meal that was that good. The last time I had any meal that was that good was when I arrived Wednesday night and went to Whole Foods, bought $31 worth of dry aged steak and cooked it myself. That was excellent too. But the restaurant meal was next level.
You
It
know
was
what's
awesome.
good that I've been doing with my breakfast recently? I've been doing eggs, but I've been buying shaved steak.
Yeah.
Just throw that in there. Cooks super quick.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah.
Chipotle salsa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really
Protein
good.
dominant. That's the key. Just gotta
When
get
does the Vanderbilt baseball team? I assume their season starts in the early spring.
Yeah, well, they start spring practice in January, late January.
Okay,
So
where
start
do they do that here? Or do they go somewhere else?
No,
they do it
this
here.
isn't pro ball. You know, they're not
Okay,
flying out
well,
to Florida. I mean,
they are
will.
Division One.
Well, you know, they will do series in warm weather areas to
Okay.
start the year. So I haven't checked what their schedule's like, but you know, sometimes the teams will go out to California. That's not uncommon. Even Hawaii is not uncommon. I don't think Vanderbilt did that, but one of my coaches at Vanderbilt with the team that he was coaching last year, I believe went out to Hawaii. So yeah, you got to take advantage of the warm weather when people are scheduling February games.
You says Hawaii. You ever see Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
I don't think
If you put a little bit of long hair on him, he looks like the buffet guy that punches. What's his right?
Oh,
Like
what
a
is
little
it?
bit.
No, pineapple guy. What does he say?
Oh, hey man, rum guy.
Rum guy. Oh, pineapple and rum
Oh,
guy.
hey, pineapple and
Rum guy. Yeah, bam. Yeah, this ain't the breakfast buffet, bitch.
Yeah, that's right. I was talking to the men's group yesterday. There's a guy in our men's group who's Samoan, and he was talking about how much like pit bulls, Hawaiians have a propensity to violence and just fighting for no reason.
Well, John Doyle says that all brown people do, which is why Sav Hernandez is very angry.
Oh, she's
talking
feisty.
to you, Sav.
Yeah.
She calls me when she's in her rages.
Oh,
And
really?
I try to calm her down and remind her that she has Asian blood in her.
Okay. Also
like
Mexican,
tiger blood,
right?
Is that like tiger blood? Does it make you?
Yeah, well, I think it's the Chicana. It's the Chicana blood, I think, that makes her angry.
Yeah, good.
That's what Alex Jones was saying like 6 or 12 months ago. I was listening to, I think he's on Joe Rogan talking about, you know, like Native American blood. I'm like,
Yeah.
sure.
Probably a lot of pent up aggression there.
Yeah, well, so maybe it's the Samoan blood in the Hawaiians.
Yeah.
That
Do
makes
Samoans
them-
have like really high testosterone?
So there you go. He's going to look it up. That's a good question. I do wonder.
Yeah, like when people talk about blood, this and that, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if these things can be reduced to like trackable physiology, because Samoans and Pacific Islanders are like big, so something is enabling them to be big.
Tulsi Gabbard is pretty chill, though. She's got Samoan blood in her. Well, she's
All that's coming up
probably
is the
mixed.
NIH, you know, whatever. Cutoff levels for hyperandrogemia among Samoan women and improved methodology for deriving normative data in an obese population. Okay, so they're just saying that Samoans probably. Which nationality has the highest testosterone? It says the United States.
What? That can't
The
be
United
right.
States is
That's
said to
not
have the
right.
largest
No
levels
way.
of testosterone in the world. Sweden and Trinidad
No,
and Tobago
that's
come in
wrong.
second and third in most studies.
Who do you think
of
has the
countries with
highest?
testosterone
I
levels.
think like somewhere in South America.
Apparently,
I think testosterone
Japanese,
levels
they
are
have
higher.
very low
You
testosterone.
think in South America?
Yes.
Do you want me to click this link? Testosterone levels by country 2022. Adriana, throw this up on number 4 there. Let's see. Testosterone levels by country. Countries
all
with the
blue.
highest testosterone. When considering testosterone levels by country, there are a number of factors studied to determine what countries have the highest levels of testosterone. Overall, however, it is a difficult factor to quantify and generalize, because individuals need to be tested to determine this factor conclusively. That typically does not happen, but some studies do find consent for such research. Developed countries have higher testosterone. That's what it says. The United States is said to have the largest levels of testosterone in the world. Sweden and Trinidad and Tobago come in second. Trinidad and Tobago, that's so weird. And third in most studies. Japan also has a high level of testosterone and is one of the most developed countries in the world, second probably to the United States.
I don't believe this.
Overall,
This is-
males in Asian countries
fake
outside of
news.
Japan typically tend to have lower levels of testosterone than the Japanese. This is from worldpopulationreview.com.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I don't think putting somebody on the standard American diet's likely to make their testosterone levels rise.
Yeah, imagine all those seed oils. I don't think that's.
There's a question about
exactly-
seed oils for him later.
Oh, good.
I think if I'm to guess, meat consumption is probably going to be positively correlated with testosterone levels. So to the extent that testosterone levels may be higher in developed nations, it's because they're able to consume more meat per capita. But if you were to simply consume more meat per capita without the added inclusion of processed foods, I would think that environment would be more conducive.
So like Argentina,
Yeah,
Brazil, Brazil, yeah.
I think so.
Honey?
We're all looking at him.
They're all looking at my husband.
That's funny. That's fine. Okay, so let's talk about what you wanted to talk about. There's
I texted you. I was
horrible story.
furious when I heard the story. I don't know if you've heard this, Alex.
I don't know. Tell me.
So, there's a story that came out of London. There's a woman. Her name is Teresa. She didn't share her last name. She was scheduled for a life-saving colorectal surgery at this hospital called Princess Grace Hospital, which is, they specialize in women's healthcare. So she intentionally chose this hospital. It's a private hospital to have the surgery because she's a survivor of sexual assault, multiple sexual assaults apparently. And she specifically requested for an all-female nursing staff post-procedure because apparently the surgery is very complex. The recovery time is long and it requires like 2 different leading surgeons, their whole staff, a robot, 7 days in the hospital.
I have the tweet thread up if you want to look at it and read it.
Yeah, we can throw it up in a second. And so long story short, this woman requested an all-female staff to care for her and explained to the hospital that because she has, a lot of trauma from being sexually assaulted in the past, and she knew she'd be in a very vulnerable position. She wanted women to care for her. So she was in the hospital to get some pre-op procedures. And she was in the hospital room, and a man wearing a wig and bright lipstick, unannounced, walks into her room, opens the door, looks at her, makes eye contact with her, and apparently stares at her for a few seconds and then just walks out. And she found it to be very strange, and she felt a little bit frightened by it. And she felt like, intuitively, they were messing with her because of her unique request. So she left the hospital and reported the incident and reminded the hospital that she requested an all-female staff, and she explained that she felt unsafe. And the hospital said that they were going to courier medication to her home in preparation for her big surgery. So on Thursday, it was like a Thursday or a Friday, she called the hospital. And she said, I haven't received my medications yet. Is there anything going on? Do I need to do anything? And they told her that her surgery had been canceled with no explanation. And they didn't give her any reason why. And then she got an email from the CEO of the hospital on a Friday. Now, her surgery was scheduled for that Monday. And she gets an email on Friday from the CEO explaining that they have decided to cancel her surgery because their values don't align. And the CEO said that it was important to her to protect the hospital staff from being discriminated against.
Yeah.
So that's the story in a nutshell. And the really sad thing is that this particular surgery that she was she opted in for, it was the best option, and the only alternative was open surgery, and the surgeons advised against that because there were a lot of risks. And 4 days after the scheduled surgery was supposed to take place and was canceled, she was admitted into the emergency room she had lost a lot of weight in just those few days. She was in extreme pain, and now she may not even be a candidate for that open surgery. And she shared, you can probably throw up the emails, she shared the screenshots of the email from the CEO, her responses to the CEO, and back and forth. And the CEO just the same things over and over again, that she wanted to protect the hospital staff. So just like we talked about in the last episode, I'm so sick and tired of hearing anyone try to claim that the trans movement has all these individuals that are discriminated against and that are second-class citizens. When you see stories like this so many times, where there's some situation where a woman is, her needs and her desires are not even considered. And the only people who are being paid attention to and who are being listened to are the men who are pretending to be women. And it just keeps happening over and over again. And these people keep claiming that they're discriminated against.
That's actually an interesting insight on the oppression hierarchy. Is if you are a woman who is a victim of sexual assault, you are lower on the oppression pyramid than a trans woman, right?
That is very interesting. It is very interesting. But maybe, Mike, you can pull up the email, because when you actually read to what the CEO said to this woman, I mean, it is infuriating. I was so upset when I read this yesterday. Really, really upset, because this woman, from what I've read, she may die from not having the surgery. And just the fact that they would, I mean, it sounds very much like that guy popping his head into the room was an intentional thing. Like, the guy apparently had like really bright lipstick on and a wig. And
this is the email. I'll read it for those who can't really see it this well. And this is from the CEO. It says, Thank you for your email dated 6 October 2022. We have reviewed the content of your email. We do not share your beliefs and are not able to adhere to your requests, and we have therefore decided we will not proceed with your surgery at the Princess Grace Hospital on May the 10th, October 2022. We have shared our decision with Professor Fayaz and recommend you make alternative arrangements. I appreciate this is not the communication you were expecting to receive. However, HCA is committed to protecting our staff from unacceptable distress, and we believe that the cornerstones of a good patient care is based on mutual respect and trust. That's a very weird sentence. However, HCA is committed to protecting our staff from unacceptable distress.
Yeah.
You're about to perform surgery on a person.
Yeah, the staff.
It seems like that person should be upfront and have, the most care.
Yeah, they're worried about distressing the mentally ill man in a wig.
Yeah, what does he have to do with it?
I don't know. They didn't specify in the story whether he was nursing staff or what other staff he was.
Hey, dude, don't go in there.
Just don't go in there, and maybe don't be trans, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're running a company, you do need to have some degree, there's multiple stakeholders in place, right? So you need to make sure that your customers are happy. You still need to make sure that your employees are happy. So, to the extent that there are situations where you can protect your employees, based on the interactions of some customers, right? Would I have done that in his situation, knowing what I know? Probably not. And I don't even know, is the CEO a male or female? Do we know?
Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Daily Mail, I think, shared a picture of her, and she's just, your typical white liberal woman. And
it's because these people have
last
archetypes.
name is Green.
So I think what isn't quite understood on the sane side of the aisle is the crazy people have archetypes for what constitutes the greatest threat to their existence. And because they believe left-wing media, so they believe these stories that are out about all these huge risks that we don't think about ever because they don't actually exist. But the crazy people think that they're real. And so anytime that there is something that mimics this big boogeyman monster, they instantly categorize it as this big threat that I was warned about in the media. I went through this first when I was working at Google when they fired James Darmore for writing the diversity memo, which is essentially rephrasing a lot of Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Haidt material as it pertained to diversity and inclusion programs in Silicon Valley and specifically at Google. And when I saw the backlash among both male and female employees at Google, I struggled at first to understand, why are these people so angry? What he's saying is simply, the research, the social science research that is most often replicated about male-female differences in disposition and big five trait characteristics, personality traits. And, I thought about it for several days, why are these people so mad? Why are these people so mad? And how I rationalized it was, they haven't quite figured out the news is fake yet. And so they're following one narrative basically since Trump's election through August 2017 when James was fired. And all of this media is talking about women are under attack, women are at risk, misogyny's on the rise. We need to be careful about this. We need to be careful about white supremacy. We need to be careful about all these things that we don't worry about. And so when they see James, who's a white male engineer, write this story, they're not going to actually read it and think, does this make sense? Does that make sense? They're just going to instantly categorize it as a threat and attack it like it is the threat that they believe it to be based on what their media told them to fear. And so that's probably what's going on right here.
Yeah. What were the traits you were talking about? Because I didn't actually read Darmore's memo, but I remember hearing about it. I remember hearing that there was a part he talked about women tend to be more neurotic.
Yeah,
things like that.
The basic differences that he was quoting related to trait neuroticism and trait agreeableness between male and female. And what a lot of people didn't understand at Google, and the executive team did a tremendous job of shielding a majority of the company from the information, is that if you actually look at the meta-analyses that are underlying these conclusions or these statements about women having a higher propensity to negative emotions, you can just Google it. There are studies conducted over tens of thousands of people across dozens of countries that basically identify the big five personality traits which are openness to new experience, conscientiousness, extroversion versus introversion, agreeableness versus disagreeableness, and trait neuroticism. Those are the 5. And you can actually look at the data and be like, oh, okay, this in this country, the difference between men and women is 0.2 standard deviation. So it's like very data based. I'm sure you can pick apart the methodology and say, well, this is a problem with that. How do you do the translation? How do you know that the people that you're studying in one language are answering the same question that the people you're studying in another language? Fine, you can pick apart the methodology, but that wasn't done. Right. There was no admission on the part of the dissidents, the people who disagreed with James or disagreed with what James was doing. There was no admission that these social science, research studies had ever been done. And so, if you don't acknowledge that the studies have ever been done, it's easier to stigmatize somebody as like a deranged lunatic who's just, pontificating on a subject that he knows nothing about. And that's really the strategy of the left, is they want to convince you to not actually listen to the people who disagree with them. And certainly, like that New York Times article, don't go down the rabbit hole. It's like, okay, don't think critically, don't question the things that we're saying, even if it makes sense to. And so that's the strategy. And to be frank, it's actually been a quite effective strategy.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime you see people get away with bullshit over and over again, you got to pay attention. Like, what are they doing right that we're not doing? Because if they're convincing people of a fake narrative and we're saying things that are correct, but an unbelievably high percentage of the population actually believes what they're saying, they must be good at what they're doing. What can we learn from it?
So you were working at Google at that time.
Yeah.
What was the response like from what you saw?
Felt like a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the employees were so shielded from these ideas. And this was when Jordan Peterson was just rising on YouTube. I was watching 20 to 30 hours a week of the guy in 2017 because he was saying things that I had thought might be true, but then he was taking them a step further and adding research to it and well-structured thought around it. And I'm like, this guy's the smartest person I'd ever heard speak. I didn't realize that I was the only person in my work cohort that had actually heard of Jordan Peterson at the time and consumed his content. I kind of assumed that, well, if I'm seeing this guy for 400 hours, other people may have seen him for at least 30 minutes. No, they haven't. And so they really responded like they were under attack, like a bunch of right wingers, hijacked a research article and flew it into the building or something like that. That's really how they responded. Every team kind of diverted from their normal meeting schedule to talk about it, to make sure, to protect employee welfare, all that stuff. And I was one of the only people who was, very open about, it seems like we're denying science here, guys.
Yeah. And I think it's also very indicative of how, I don't like to throw this term around, but how privileged these people are. That's an attack to them. Yeah. You live such a privileged life that everything is so safe and cushy in your life. And the worst thing that could ever happen to you is that someone tells you that women tend to be more neurotic than men are. That to them, like you said, is a terrorist attack.
Especially from someone who clearly, James Moore seems to be on the spectrum somewhere. And just very quiet dude, and who just noticed some things and decided to write a memo.
I felt so bad for him. I remember watching him on Dave Rubin when he had him on shortly after that, and just watching him and being like, this guy has become public enemy number one. They made him out to be the devil, essentially. And he just seems like this kind of mild-tempered dude on the spectrum who's just gathering data.
Well, and I think you can't underestimate the importance of people's narcissism when it comes to this. So don't forget that people's positions in the workforce may not be that important to people who work independently, work for themselves, but your position within a corporate hierarchy is incredibly important for the institutionally committed. And by institutionally committed, I mean somebody who's spent many years going to an elite university, possibly going to graduate school, and then working for a white shoe firm afterwards. The cleaner your resume is, the more quote unquote perfect your resume is, the more you're incentivized, motivated by getting an extra star on the corporate hierarchy, right? And so when a lot of these women come into work, they notice that, well, most of the people who have leadership positions are men. which is true. They're probably not considering the fact that in any new industry, the first movers are almost always overrepresented as men on the spectrum. It doesn't matter if it's tech. It doesn't matter if it's, probably like sailing ships to the new world or whatever. Like the first movers in every industry are like a bunch of hyper aggressive, mildly autistic men.
Yeah.
And so they don't think about that. They just say, okay, well, I'm smarter than this person who's telling me what to do. I should have his job. And then they're told that the only reason that this person has this job is because they're a man. And it blends into the narrative and the general animosity and antipathy they have for life. And so when they have an experience being around somebody like James, who's voicing an opinion that they believe is primarily responsible for the lack of career progression that they've had, well, then they look at him as the enemy. He is the reason why I'm not succeeding to the extent of my abilities. He's the reason. He's representative of the reason why we are being held back. I'm tired of not being recognized for what I'm doing. Well, they don't realize that all junior employees are not recognized for what they're doing at large companies. That's kind of how the companies are structured and how they maintain profitability is by underappreciating junior employees and keeping them, set on compensation and promotion structures that will kind of throttle their growth. It's by design. It doesn't matter what your sex is. It doesn't matter what your race is. They want to keep everybody down. But they don't realize this. And so it's very easy to redirect animosity. If you hate one thing, it's like not that hard to get people to hate the other thing.
Yeah.
And so that's all, that's what the puppet masters do. It's don't hate us, hate them.
It also reminds me of something that Andrew Tate said. I think this was in the Full Send interview. He was talking about how he built his webcam business. And he said, women are inherently lazy. He says, between the two genders, women are lazy. Like if you just give them the freedom, they will be lazy. They don't have, and he
women in general, he says.
Women in general. And what he means by that, and like a sort of better, more sanitized way to articulate that is that women don't have the inherent desire to conquer the way that men do.
The more PC way of saying it would be women aren't as greedy.
Right. That's another PC way to say it. And so watching all of the women who work in tech be completely, devastated by what James Damore said, and then they're pointing the fingers and saying, he's the reason I'm not successful. That person's the reason. The patriarchy is the reason I'm not. So that goes back to this like laziness of like, they don't want to put in the hours because they don't know how much it takes to found a company like Google or Airbnb or Twitter or whatever it is. They have no idea what it actually takes. So they point to all the executives and say, oh, I should be there. I should be there. Yeah, well, you wouldn't put in like 80 hours a week to make it happen.
I wonder if there'd even be a need for a study like this, but just to compare.
There will never be a study like this. By the way. University studies are done.
Right.
All the meaningful studies have ended in 2010. We have no hope.
No, I wonder a way to see. I mean, if you put groups of women together, right, and you say who has the ability to handle stress, the best? Is it the mother with 2 children who takes care of the home, or is it the university graduate who works at a high level, let's say law firm or tech company?
Well, how do you define stress? That's the
question.
Well, that would be interesting to see.
Because I had a woman in my comments. I think it was the post where I was talking about how women are doing better than men, blah, blah, blah. And she wrote this thing about how moms who raise young children, that raising toddlers prepares you for the workforce. And it prepares you to be an executive. And I was shocked at just...
Did you disagree at first and was like, what?
No. It's disagree flat. There is no comparison. Now, I'm not saying that one ability to deal with stress is better than the other, but you will never be able to convince me that even if you raise 7 kids, 10 kids, that does not prepare you for the boardroom. They are two completely different things.
Not being a mother myself, I will disagree with the mother on this one. And the reason being is I actually... I mentioned this, I tweeted this out like a couple months ago, and I said that dealing with small children is like a masterclass in marketing and sales.
That was my thinking. This is why I was wondering about that study.
I don't think it is.
Kids are very emotional, right? They're highly temperamental. They will manipulate you at every chance they get. So if you understand that, you're actually much better prepared for a corporate environment than somebody who doesn't understand that and isn't constantly practicing like, how do I manipulate this small child into doing the thing that I want?
My question wasn't so much as women who are already in the workforce. My question would be to compare the group of women, let's say mothers with 3 toddlers, versus the woman exiting college and about to take on a role at one of these corporations or tech companies or something like that. Like, who would be better suited for a stressful environment? And like you said, how do we define stress? Or
it's how you define stress.
And the other thing to consider is that the university system, as well as white shoe work environments, incentivize neuroticism.
When you say white shoe, what do you mean?
Go work at Skadden Arps, go work at a top law firm, go work at McKinsey, go work at Bain Consulting, go work at Goldman Sachs.
You just don't get your shoes dirty? Is that what I mean? Like white shoe?
I didn't make up white shoe. White shoe's been around for, it's like...
I've never heard it. I just hear white collar, blue collar. I've never heard white shoe before.
White shoe, I think it came from like waspy kids in New England.
Okay.
Like I think that refers to boating shoes maybe. I don't know. I don't boat.
White shoe jobs. The white shoe firm is an American term used to describe prestigious professional service firms that have traditionally been associated with the upper class. Okay.
Yeah. And so how do you get into an elite university? You spend 12 years being scared of what an authority figure is going to think of you. And that's how you get good grades. And then how do you get good grades at the university? You spend 4 years being scared of what an authority figure is going to think about you, which is why you're a perfect employee to be hired by these white shoe firms who don't want you to be able to assess your own value independent of a third party's score. That's how you can exploit people to the greatest extent possible. And so you get these people who spent 16 years or more, if they went to law school, 19 years, 20 years, being graded by a third party according to the standards of a third party and finding their own personal value in the third party's grading of them. These people find it very hard to say no to things that supervisors tell them to, because their entire sense of self-worth has been derived from their ability to jump high when they're being told to. And so, these people, how do you think they skew relative to the general population? Is they skew neurotic, because why else would you be worried enough about what some third party thinks about you to spend 35 hours a week studying for tests that have very little applicability to the real world 10 years down the line? It's because you're scared of what someone thinks of you. So I think there's a selection bias when you actually look at the people who do well in school and get these white collar jobs that will make the average one skew slightly neurotic.
And it's funny that the people who have either founded these white shoe companies are usually like the dropouts or the people who are highly autistic, like an Elon Musk or any of these guys who start their own hedge fund companies and stuff like that. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, I think the reason is it's very, very difficult to outcompete incumbents by thinking the exact same way as them.
Yeah.
And if you think about how the education system works, what's the difference between somebody who gets a 99 versus somebody who gets a 96? Is the person who got the 99 more closely mimics the information that the professor wants.
Memorizes and regurgitates.
Right, but you don't actually outcompete incumbents by doing the thing that they do better than them. You outcompete incumbents by doing something slightly different that the audience wants more. Right. So it's very, very difficult to supplant an incumbent on their home turf. You have to figure out how to pivot the game to turf that you can fight on. But people who do very well in institutional environments are not graded on their ability to do that. They're graded on their ability to repeat what has already been created, but do it at a slightly greater grade. And so it's a very different mentality to be a good founder versus a good employee. And then of course, when you are that founder and you have created an idea and it has some degree of traction, then you look around and you're like, well, where can I buy the best labor at the lowest rate? And you go on LinkedIn, you start realizing that all of these credentials are simply markers that denote, higher grade or lower grade labor materials. Like if you just look at labor as like a crude material and you look at, labor plus Ivy League degree, it's like the same thing as buying 91 octane gas or something. It's like, do I want to get 91 octane gas? Do I want to get 93 octane gas? Like the whole goal of corporate hiring is to put all of their workers in a commoditized system so that there is the market is as liquid as possible, because when the market's liquid, then employees have no leverage over the employers because they can say, well, you're just a commodity. I can switch you out, go find somebody who has exactly what you can do on LinkedIn and I'll pay them what you're getting paid and we won't suffer any setbacks setbacks.
Yeah.
Do you think that higher education is going to change at all in the next couple of decades?
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
And I think it'll start from corporate employment. And so I actually think it's really scary what's going to end up happening. I don't care if somebody went to college, if I'm going to hire that person. I care if they can deliver. I care if they can have an intelligent conversation. The best employee I ever hired when I was working in tech, I did not know where he went to school until after we extended him an offer. It just wasn't important to me because I can assess people's intelligence based on their ability to communicate. But people who can't assess people's intelligence, which is most people, will only be able to assess intelligence through the use of these markers like credentials. What happens as more people are able to make incomes independent of large corporations, the benefit for working or for getting these credentials will diminish. Right. So the cost continually increases because the administrators figure out how to siphon more money off for themselves. The value diminishes because how many people go to school now and they want to work for Goldman Sachs? They want to work for McKinsey. They want to go be lawyers. Like a lot, but not as many as 10 years ago and certainly not as many as 20 years ago. And so there's going to be fewer students who want the credentials that universities can supply. There's going to be fewer buyers who will pay a higher rate for the credentials that universities supply. And the price is going to continue to go up because of government subsidies and the ability for the university administration to just grab those fees. So I think we're going to see a big transition away from formal education towards like homeschooling, apprenticeship type models, or even people just starting their own businesses similar to like 100 years ago, where it's like you're 16 years old, you got a couple $1,000, you can go start your own business. You don't need to work for somebody else. And so that's the direction that I think everything's headed. And the second order effect of that is all of these legacy institutions that are dependent on the university system, such as the universities, such as large corporations, and such as the government bureaucracy that uses these credentials and credentialing system to exclude outsiders from their ranks. They're all going to feel threatened because they're going to lose their moat. And so what's going to end up happening is it's going to be a battle between the productive people in the economy and the non-productive or archaic dinosaur institutions of the economy. And there's going to be this big narrative about how education is at risk, just like democracy is at risk. Education is at risk. Truth is at risk, but they're going to call truth their truth, not what we think is true. And so there's going to be this huge information propaganda scheme to try to get the new players, the people who are running their own schools, running their own businesses, not consuming mainstream media. There's going to be a big, big battle to try to get these people to subsidize the continued existence of the sinking Titanic institutions. That's going to be a 10 or 20 year fight.
Education is at risk. Yeah.
You want to talk about a crazy story?
Oh, is this the John Doyle one?
Yeah. So this is, it's not a story about John Doyle, but John Doyle threw it up on his stories, and I found that if it's one of these cases where if the roles were reversed, it'd be a totally different story. I'm going to throw this, Adriana, why don't you do a camera 4 here? I'm going to throw this on the screen. No, I'm going to throw this on the screen. You guys just watch this. You won't really be able to hear it unless Adriano takes his headphones off. So just so that they can, just so that they can hear it. But I'll play it for the people. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Okay. Here, let me play. Is it coming off? Can you hear it? No?
Woman won't face charges in deadly shooting of off-duty. Oh, I saw this video.
Can you, are you sure it's not playing?
So it is a black thing.
It's on channel 4, the audio's.
I asked him if it was a pipple or a black thing, and it was a black thing.
Well, don't turn it all the way up. Go halfway because it's going to be very loud. All right, let me play this again. Sorry, you guys who are just hearing this.
Anthony Santee was an off-duty
you hear it now?
When he was here inside of Liquorland at 40
we can't hear
Highway
it, but
Sterling and Independence. That was
can you
about
take off your
Thursdays
headphones?
ago.
Maybe we can hear it in
Witnesses
the
tell us that a man inside of the Liquorland was insulting a woman there, and Santee stood up for her, and then a fist fight started. Let me go! Let me go!
So basically, if you're listening to this, there is a white guy and a black guy wrestling on the ground, and then there's a woman who's the black guy's girlfriend holding a gun and yelling at the guy, "You're killing him! You're killing him!"
Fight may have lasted as long as 10 minutes.
I got my kid in the car. She screams.
Javon Taylor's girlfriend pulled out a gun and ultimately killed Anthony Santee.
So she kills him.
Now, this afternoon, Jackson County Prosecutor's
Self-defense.
Office made an announcement. I'm
That's
going to
what
read
I wanna
directly
talk
from
about,
it. We grieve with the family and community over this tragic loss of life of Mr. Santee. Missouri law governs this case, specifically self-defense and defense of others, leading us to decline charges after a careful review.
So decline.
Anthony Santee, as I
They're
mentioned,
declining
is a
charges
firefighter. He-
for murder here. I think the only thing that they're gonna press charges are for like unlawful possession because the dude's a criminal and wasn't able to own a firearm legally. This is several things came from this story that I saw John post, and obviously you can go to his stories. Well, you won't be able to see it now that you're listening to this because it'll have been yesterday or the day before. But this is why I don't, because what happened was this off-duty firefighter was in the Liquorland.
What are they fighting
Liquorland
over?
store.
Who's getting the last old English? Like,
No,
what's
well,
going on?
what happened was the guy, the black dude, they didn't have the type of cigars that he wanted or whatever. He was probably gonna, roll a blunt or something, and they didn't have his swish of sweets or whatever. So he starts yelling at the female cashier, and I think the off-duty firefighter was there, stood up for him, and was like, "Hey, man, whatever, whatever he said to her, we don't know."
I'm New York.
But apparently, the black dude went to his car and got a gun. The firefighter saw the gun, wrestled him to the ground. So as they're wrestling on the ground, the gun becomes free. The girlfriend picks it up. So this is one of the reasons why I don't stick up for people. I remember I had a big fight with some friends because they were like, if you saw a girl get slapped in the club, you wouldn't intervene? I said, absolutely not.
Definitely not.
Nope. It's like one of the ways, and we know this as guys, one of the ways a lot of fights happen, especially at nightclubs and bars, is because some dude tried to white knight for a girl that he doesn't know and he ends up getting beaten up or jumped or whatever. This is one of the reasons, if you guys are out in public and if you see an argument between, I don't know, a couple or two significant, just leave it alone unless, there's probably a point where you can step in if it's just clearly you see like a physical or altercation take place where the dude's just beating up on this
Some
woman.
states it's illegal.
Oh,
to
yeah.
intervene. Yeah.
But so that's point number one. Point number two is when you're learning anything about self-defense, especially with guns, there has to be a reasonable threat to your life, which is the definition of, using a weapon in self-defense.
Well, in some states, it could be a reasonable threat to the life of the person.
Someone else.
Yeah.
Right. So that like third party or whoever, but that's not in every state. So
Sure.
a lot of states are different. With this one though, when you're looking at self-defense for yourself or for others, there wasn't a credible threat here because what I'm assuming is this guy was trying to hold this guy down. No one was doing anything other than filming it. So I'm assuming the cops were on the way maybe. So this guy's holding this guy down. And not only that, but the woman shoots him in the back. So that's one of those things where if someone is, let's say, running away from you, they don't pose a credible threat or what do they call it? What's the actual wording here? Oh, immediate danger to prompt physical. Hold on. Reasonable fear. Person must be reasonably believing that the danger in front of them warranted self-defense. So if someone's running away from you, that person doesn't pose a threat to you. They're running away. That's why you really can't shoot someone who's running away from you. Now, inside of your house or something, that's different because there is like castle doctrine, which says that you can defend yourself however you need to within the walls of your own house.
But that differs state by state.
Yeah, that
Right,
also
exactly.
differs
Not all
state by
states have
state.
castle doctrine either.
So I don't know what the Missouri laws
The rules
are.
on self-defense are continually debated and reshaped by new developments and currently leave much room for argument. Here, Adriana, throw this up on camera for. If you're considering self-defense as a legal strategy against a criminal charge in Missouri, it is crucial to understand our state's current laws on this topic. So what is considered self-defense? Under Missouri Revised Statutes 563.031, a person may use physical force to defend themselves or others if they reasonably believe that someone is using or is about to use unlawful force on them. The law provides three elements to physical force that qualify as self-defense: imminent threat, reasonable fear, proportionate force. Now, imminent threat. Did this woman have cause or believe there was an imminent threat against her or her boyfriend on the ground? Probably not. I mean, they're wrestling. And it didn't seem like this guy was trying to hurt this guy other than restrain him. Reasonable fear. The person must be reasonable in believing that the danger in front of them warranted self-defense. Goes back to the first thing. She clearly wasn't in any danger as the off-duty firefighter was on top of her boyfriend. Proportionate force. The physical force used in self-defense must be proportional to the perceived threat. So these two guys are wrestling on the ground.
Yeah,
She
it's
uses
not
a gun to
proportional.
shoot this guy.
Right.
So she doesn't have that. So, for example, it may not be considered proportional if one person shoved another during an altercation and the other responded by firing a gun.
Well, I mean, it's also, over the next year, we're going to see 100 different clips like this that try to steer people towards jumping to a conclusion with like 45 seconds of film. Like, I don't know what happened before then. I don't know if the guy was, if the off-duty firefighter was like telling the dude that he's going to threaten to kill him or something like that. That's probably what they said, right?
I don't know. I think what eyewitnesses said is that black dude was mad they didn't have his types of cigars. He started, verbally lambasting the cashier. The dude stuck up for the cashier. The guy went out to go get a gun and then came back, wrestled. So I don't know if he's like, hey, I'm going to kill you. And then a guy says, I'm going to go get my gun. I don't know if that's
why
I don't know if that's what's happened.
You see all these videos,
but regardless,
usually in like New York subways or somewhere where someone is getting beat, and you see a lot of people on Twitter who say, I can't believe none of those men stepped in. And then Cernovich always says is he retweets it. He's like, you really think you want to step in? He says, if you step in, you're going to be the one who's arrested. You're going to be the one who goes to jail.
And it's not even that. It's if, you hate saying if the roles were reversed, but we all know that if it was a white girl who shot a black dude who was wrestling her boyfriend on the ground, point blank,
there'd be riots in the street.
Yeah, there'd be riots in the streets, and she'd be called a racist and everything like that.
Derek Chauvin.
They wouldn't drop charges on her. They would throw her in jail. And it's just like a guy has a somewhat quote unquote sort of reasonable response to some dude yelling at a cashier. And then this guy goes crazy, he snaps. I mean, like you talk about pit bulls, look who owns pit bulls, and it's not a surprise that these dogs snap on people.
Black privilege is alive and well. It's real. The best thing you can be today is black, and someone's going to clip that and call me racist, but whatever.
Well, what John Doyle was saying, he was like, this was his take on it. He says, black guy starts yelling and cursing at female clerk at convenience store over not having the cigarettes he wanted in stock. She tells him to leave. He doesn't. This off-duty firefighter tells him to leave. He goes outside and gets a gun. The two men fight in the store, and it goes outside. Black guy's girlfriend picks up a gun with the extended stick magazine, of course, as the firefighter is wrestling him to the ground, says, stop, you're killing him. He didn't do nothing, then just shoots the firefighter in the back. No charges filed on the couple except a felony weapons charge on the guy. Media reporting it as self-defense while omitting the above details. And
what city again?
This is Missouri. It's in Missouri. I don't know what city it's in.
Well, okay. So like if I'm going to take the other side of that, like, I don't know, my dad's an attorney in California, so I'm not an expert on laws like this. But,
very Jew.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But if you're like, self-defense is predicated on your reasonable fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be correct. You just need to be scared and people understand that you're scared. Right. So if perhaps if she could convince a district attorney that.
Which she did.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how people die, but it seemed like he might have died. So I had to do this. Like, okay, well, you're a fucking idiot, but.
It seemed reasonable to me.
That's reasonable. So, okay.
Right.
Fine.
And the prosecutor didn't want to charge her because there was going to be social backlash to him personally if he did it, if he actually charged her. But yeah, that just doesn't seem. It doesn't seem like a reasonable use of self-defense. I mean, obviously we're not there and we see, 15 seconds of a clip where, who knows if the longer one's going to be made.
I prefer to reserve my outrage to situations where we have more complete evidence because there is not a short supply of those.
Well, no, we'll see situations like that particular situation, to see two guys wrestling on the floor and having one woman just slapping the guy on the back first and saying, no, stop. And then just resort to just shooting him. Like, the guy didn't try to like swipe the gun away from her. The guy didn't get up and make a move towards her, because if he did that, that could have been, reasonable fear or justification for the shot. But none of that happened. I mean, I'm assuming on that clip that we watched, they probably just cut it short to where she shot him.
Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Like we're struggling to guess on these things. And so, I think one of the reasons why I found the left to be so uncredible leading up to 2016, when they were talking about Trump lies about this, Trump lies about that. It's like, if he lies all the time, why do you have to lie about him lying?
Yeah.
Like, just focus on the times that he lies.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of my take on things like this, is there's enough examples of like completely ridiculous prosecutorial malpractice out there that like we can just focus talking about those. We don't need to focus on talking about the cases that can be interpreted in multiple different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we should just focus on the cases that can't be interpreted in multiple different ways.
Yeah. So John calls him a good Samaritan, but I guess we don't really know if he was a good Samaritan.
Yeah,
who knows?
Is that all it takes to be a good Samaritan, is to stick up for a cashier?
I mean, I don't, but going back to what we've all been saying is that's why
Yeah.
you don't, especially in a situation like that, even if he was like just yelling at the cashier.
Yeah.
Now, if he's like, even if he was like physically threatening the cashier, it's like, in some ways, you kind of got to just mind your own business.
Call the police.
Call the police.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a sort of like a hero complex as he was a firefighter. I don't know.
Yeah, I would have just,
Oh, yeah.
I would have just stepped back. I mean, I'm a sissy.
I would have
like
just
that.
honestly
I'm
just
like,
walked
"Peace
out."
guys.
Just
Yeah.
walked out.
You do your thing.
Well, see that's the issue with society now. Like, what do we do? Because we
I'm about to get faded. It's 2 p.m.
right,
Peace out.
exactly. No, I mean there was another story in which this couple was hiking. This couple was hiking and they saw a woman stranded by her car. They tried to help her. It was a trap.
It was a trap.
They tried to rob him. He had a concealed gun on him. He shot her. The woman who sprung the trap shot him, and the girlfriend watched her boyfriend die, all because he was trying to be nice. So it's like one of these things. It's like if I see a car stranded on the side of the road, knowing these things now and knowing the way our society acts, I am really, really, really unwilling to help anybody.
So
Well, I
moral
mean-
of the story, don't help anybody.
Well, yeah,
I guess.
the challenge is, over the last 6 or so years, we're surrounded by empathy traps where they're designed to manipulate highly empathetic people. Good thing I'm
Yeah.
not that empathetic.
Yeah.
Well, I am pretty empathetic. I'm not sympathetic. And I think those are two distinct terms that people often misuse. I can understand why people think the way they think. I have no sympathy
Right,
for them.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, and that is actually a case for a lot of legislation being passed, is that we shouldn't pass legislation based on empathy. And if we were going to pick between the two, sympathy or empathy, it would be better to do it off of sympathy for people, because empathy, it's like, I can't understand, why you'd feel this way because there's someone else who isn't in that situation. Because what is empathy? You're putting yourself in someone else's shoes to understand how they're feeling.
I can understand like loser psychology. Everybody has the choice to like think like a loser or think like a winner.
Right.
And most winners have at least felt tempted to think like losers. And so whenever I encounter people who disagree with me, number one, they're always losers. Just kidding.
Except not.
But
He disagreed with you
but
earlier,
no,
Gina.
but very commonly
He's a loser.
when people are in fundamental disagreement with how I approach certain issues, particularly social issues, it's because they are not winners. And I mean that literally. Like, they were not good at sports. They're not good in hierarchical environments. They're not good at competing, because the mindset shifts that you need to make to be a professional athlete, Division I athlete, successful under pressure, are very much antithetical to victim culture and victim mindsets. But you understand, every competitive athlete is told by his coaches that you have the choice whether you want to be a winner or a victim, and we don't have victims on this team, and we don't have victims on this field, and so you're familiar with victim psychology.
Right,
you just
right.
don't want to dabble in it, because that's like 6 weeks before your last game, because you're not going to be that successful if you think like a victim. So I can empathize with victim psychology. I just don't sympathize with it.
Moral of the story is, remember? Oh yeah, yeah.
does look a lot
right?
like
a little
him.
bit, a little bit.
You guys do look alike.
Moral of the story: don't be outside of a liquor land at 2:00 in the afternoon. I mean, a lot of this stuff is also situational awareness, and just not, what is it saying? Nothing good ever happens after the sun goes down, or nothing good
sun's
ever
up.
happens after midnight.
After 2 p.m.
Right,
now
exactly.
it's changed.
Nothing
No, but
good ever.
it's in the liquor
Happens at
land.
liquor land.
Liquor land at 2 p.m.
If I'm
probably
running
not.
out of gas, I try to stretch it to reach like a corporate gas station rather than pulling into the ghetto gas station and seeing the convenience stores with the bars on the windows. I'll drive past that, try to get to the Shell
That's
or
because
something
you're
like that.
racist.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yeah, I guess.
you got to be racist to survive these days.
No, I'm not racist, because I always want to patronize Middle Eastern owned businesses.
Falafel.
Because are you a
Iraq.
Middle Eastern supremacist?
No, well, I mean, right now, base Muslims are starting
Base
to pop up all
Muslims.
over the place. So yeah, no, and I say that because I'm not racist towards the people who own the convenience stores or the gas stations, but
Is there a Middle Eastern conspiracy to corner the gas station market in the United States? That's
just smart. I
That's
don't
what
even
the
know
right,
if it's
the right should be pushing back on the Biden administration, calling them racist.
Oh.
You guys are saying all these Indians and Middle Easterners are trying to screw over white people.
right. Or what Alex Stein just did. He said Biden just says just lower the price. So he went into all these gas stations and was like, why don't you guys just lower the price? They're like, we can't do that. Why not? Just go and lower. You can change the sign.
Change the sign.
We got to get Primetime 99 up on the show.
Yeah, he said he'd come. I
Yeah.
think it's just a matter of getting him out here.
Do you want to talk about the Jaffe memo, the Jaffe memo?
Oh, yeah, the Jaffe memo.
And then we'll do some questions?
Yeah, let's talk about the Jaffe memo.
So-
We can throw it up there?
Yeah, so
Give
the
us some
Jaffe, here,
context.
Adriano, here, throw this up right here. So the Jaffe memo, it was this memo who, this guy, was he a doctor?
No, I
The
don't
Jaffe memo is an infamous document produced by Planned Parenthood in 1969. He was actually the vice president of Planned Parenthood in 1969. In which a single page, it covers the lengths that elitists are willing to go to manage the U.S. population. And actually, here is the actual memo. So this is proposed measures to reduce fertility by universality or selectivity of impact in the U.S. Universal impact, they go by columns here. Restructure the family, 2 points.
These are the social constraints.
Right. To postpone or avoid marriage and to alter image of ideal family size. So they want you to postpone or avoid marriage altogether, and they want to say that, hey, only having one kid is good. 2 kids bad, 3 kids worse. Don't do that. Only have 1 kid. Compulsory education of children. Already doing that.
Already doing that. Very
Encourage
Marxist.
increased homosexuality. Already doing that.
Gays.
Educate for family limitation. They're already doing that. Fertility control agents in the water supply. We don't know. I mean,
They're definitely
what's in the
doing
water.
that.
They make the frogs gay. Encouraging women to work. I mean, that's what, second wave feminism was all about, trying to get
Yeah.
equal representation in the workforce.
Right.
This is now the section of economic deterrence and incentives. So these are different types of tax policies that could be implemented. Substantial marriage tax. If you get married, we're going to tax you. Child tax. For each kid you have, we're going to tax you. Tax married more than single. Well, I mean, that's just,
So you get punished for getting
you
married.
get
That's what
punished for
they're
getting
proposing.
married. Remove parents' tax exemption. Additional taxes on parents with more than 1 or 2 children in school. This sounds like China, right? Like, doesn't this sound like
Yeah.
China, like one child policy? Reduce and eliminate paid maternity leave or benefits. Reduce and eliminate children or family allowances, bonuses for delayed marriage and greater child spacing. Pensions for women of 45 with less than N children, so X amount of children. Eliminate welfare payments after first 2 children. Kind of, all right.
I think this one's funny. The next
can
one's
get down
just
with
funny.
that. Chronic
I just
depression.
think it's funny the way they
Yeah,
put
they
it in
want
there.
to. They want
Use
to.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we are pro chronic
Yeah.
depression.
Pro chronic depression.
Require women to work and provide few childcare facilities. They're doing that. Eliminate publicly financed medical care, scholarships, housing, loans, and subsidies to families with more than X children.
That hasn't happened.
Well, remember that thing that I texted you yesterday about Starbucks will now finance your designer child for whatever reason? So
yeah, I
Starbucks,
saw that.
they might pay for you to go out of state and get an abortion, but if you're infertile for whatever reason, they'll pay up to $40,000 for you to
Make a baby in a Petri dish.
in a petri dish. So it's like, that's kind of counterintuitive, I guess. I mean, so wait, you would pay $40,000 for a woman to become pregnant and then pay for her to go on maternity leave once she has this child. That just seems like bad business.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate on that. If your sole focus is maximizing profit margins, you want low-priced employees with who will stay with your company.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Loyalty. They're like, oh, they help me out so much, so I'm going to stay with this company.
Yeah, so you can both support abortions by paying for the
Right, because
abortions of those who
you don't want them to have kids and leave
right,
the
so they can keep
workforce,
working.
right?
But you also got to understand, like, a lot of corporate incentives are like pie in the sky type incentives that very few people will actually capitalize on.
Right.
I joke about this with some of the corporate content that I sell, but corporate incentive schemes are very similar to those arcade games that you play when you're like 11, 12
The
years
Claw?
old. The Claw is one of them, or the other one is the
Oh, the
penny.
coins.
The coins.
I love
you
that.
always think that the coins are going to come out, and they
Right.
never come out. Right. So that's how a lot of corporate incentive systems work. Where
They shake it.
women might think, you might have a 36-year-old woman who think, I would benefit from some degree of assistance in fertility, so I can go work at Starbucks in their corporate office, and they're going to take care of me. And then the reality is, maybe they spend $40,000 over 4 years, but it hits 1 out of every 3 times.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it
Oh,
doesn't
I didn't
actually
think about
cost.
that.
They're barren anyway.
Right. Whoa.
Because only barren women work at Starbucks.
You ready to hear some social controls? Okay, throw this up. Compulsory abortion of out-of-wedlock pregnancies. Compulsory sterilization of all who have 2 children except for a few who would be allowed, quote unquote, allowed 3.
The white elites.
Confine childbearing to only a limited number of adults.
The white elites.
Stock certificate type permits for children. And then there's housing policies. Discouragement of private home ownership. Stop awarding public housing based on family size. family size. And this is in the measures predicated on existing motivation to prevent unwanted pregnancy column. Payments to encourage sterilization, payments to encourage contraception, payments to encourage abortion, abortion and sterilization on demand, allow harmless contraceptives to be distributed non-medically, improve contraceptive technology, make contraception truly available and accessible, and improve maternal health care with family planning a core element. Why is that in there?
What is allow harmless contraceptives to be distributed non-medically? Does that like put fluoride in the water? What does that mean?
Are condoms, would they be harmless?
I don't know.
I think that would be considered because there's no side effects.
Oh, I see.
I
Okay.
think. But isn't it funny how a lot of the things on that list are repackaged today as women's empowerment and women's liberation?
Well, I think
And they were literally being used to control
Yeah.
the population from reproducing more a few short decades ago.
The things that aren't. So I think it's important to understand who is pushing the left and who's really pulling the strings. It's actually more insightful to look at what hasn't been executed on that list. So what hasn't been executed on that list, I don't believe that there's reduced welfare payments for large families. I don't believe that if you actually wanted to reduce consumption, you'd close borders, and borders aren't closed, right? So what I think this list was most likely pushed forward by was some combination of environmentalists and white supremacist people in the 60s. And there's an overlap between the two. And certainly before the Kennedy administration, the racist people were voting for Democrats at the time. And so to understand the Democratic Party, you got to understand the factions that are supporting all the various initiatives. And so those factions would include like corporate interests, women, environmentalists, and minorities. And so the agreement across all of these groups seems to align with a bunch of things whose end result is women are having fewer kids. And so I don't know that there's like a single entity that is pushing for a depopulation scheme and getting everything that they want. I think that there's one entity, one group that's pushing for some degree of depopulation, another group that's pushing for profit maximization, another group that's maximizing for female independence of husband, dominance within marriage, and another group that's trying to water down, trying to execute the quote unquote great replacement theory or something like that. So I think what they're doing is some degree of negotiation between all of the factions that support them.
Question time.
We should make a little question jingle.
Oh, yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Here's the question jingle. Go to I'mDoingMerch.com and buy some merch to support the show. It's the only way we keep the show going is if you help us out and buy some merch.
Someone write us a jingle. If you write us a good jingle, not just any jingle, but a good jingle, we'll give you a free.
We'll give you a free something. Pick anything on the website. We'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for making it this far.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Ben Vogan. He sends me gay pitbull memes all the time. They're not funny, but I'll read your question anyway. Should I regularly take MCT oil? Why or why not?
I don't have a reason to. I don't regularly take MCT oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my answer too. I've never really been into it, but I'm not for or against.
Okay, this isn't a thoughts question, but they use the word think in it. So it is a question.
Let's hear it.
What do you think about Taylor Swift?
I mean, it's a broad question. I mean, I think I can't stand her. I think she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And I think she's really good at what she does. But I think she's an evil bitch.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I was threatened by Selena Gomez was going to sue me because of photos I took of Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah.
What?
I can't get into it, but I mean, I can say that
Selena
probably.
threatened you?
Yeah. We were friendly at the time too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't handle Taylor Swift. She's just a fucking idiot.
I only like one song. There was a song from the, what's that movie about the Hungry Kids? The Hunger Games.
Hungry Kids.
Yes.
The movie about the Hungry Kids.
It's
The Hunger Games.
it's called Safe and Sound. And it's only because it was featuring Taylor Swift. It was the Civil Wars who I do enjoy.
I like the Civil Wars.
Yeah, they had a good song called Safe and Sound. It's a good song.
Yeah. I was going to say something.
Do you care
I
anything
forgot.
about Taylor Swift? You don't care.
I know very little about Taylor Swift, and I try to not judge celebrities who I know very little about, because I could name like
There's-
don't know.
She
There's
just
a-
does a really good job at
Just don't know anything about her.
playing the perpetual victim. She's really good at it.
Yeah.
So
There's
you
a
know.
guy who I follow on Instagram. He's really funny. I won't out him right now, but he loves Taylor Swift, but he's also like a big gun guy, and I believe he has his own firearms company or he's involved in firearms in some way. But he's always posting Taylor Swift. So he posted something recently because I think she has an album coming out. So I messaged him. I said, "Is this a cry for help?" And he said, "Partially a shitpost. I noticed years ago a lot of people in the gun community don't know how to process cool guns and Taylor Swift, and I always get entertaining reactions." And he says, if you haven't watched it, was pretty good. It goes off the rails about like people responding to him and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. So I think he's just trolling people.
He's just
with the Taylor
trolling.
Swift. But
That's
he
a pretty
might
good
actually
troll.
like Taylor Swift.
My favorite Taylor Swift moment was when Kanye went up and I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you talk.
Oh, I'm going to let you finish. But Beyonce had the best music video. of
Yeah,
all
that was my
time.
favorite Taylor Swift.
That music video wasn't even really all that good. But
Which one was it?
all the single ladies. Okay,
Oh.
here we go. From real Ethan Burns, how can I stay motivated in the gym despite detractors and critics, including family?
I would need to chat with you one-on-one on this to really get more insight into what's going on from a family standpoint.
DM him.
Yeah.
Can he DM you?
He can DM me.
You can email him?
Or, you can DM me. If you buy one of my training products, you can get a one-on-one consultation on the back of it. But, I can give a couple different examples. And a lot of it depends on how successful you are right now. One of the benefits that I had in my life was that because I attained a base level of success through college and through professional baseball and like getting a job at Google, by the time I was 25, 26 years old, I no longer felt like I had any obligation to rely on my family and what they thought about the decisions that I was making. And so every time I've like quit one job and moved to another job, like I tell my parents like 3 months later, right? When I stopped working at Google, I think I told my mom like 6 months after. When I started working for myself after working at a crypto exchange for 3 years, I think my mom found out like 9 months after. Like I just I don't think that my parents are in a position to where they can help me achieve my goals. And I think it professionally. So I think that I'll include them with my decisions, but I'm not going to rely on them.
Right.
That being said, if I were just a notch less successful at any of the endeavors that I had done, and I were in some degree dependent on my family, either financially or emotionally, it would be a lot harder for me to ignore their influence or their intended influence over me. So a lot of it is case specific. If you've done enough in your life where you don't have to listen to critics and dissonance, don't listen to them. Cancel them out, right? Pretend they're not there. Now, if you do have to interact with them, well, that becomes a little bit more complex. And the number one rule of life is the more you win, the less people you have to listen to. So just work on winning.
I like that. Jonathan Thomas, 1689. Should America have a state church?
America already does have a state church,
What is it called?
the Democratic Party.
There you go. I knew that was coming. What do you think, Gina?
That's a really good question.
It would be a fight amongst the denominations. Whose church should be representative? How I feel.
my initial answer is no. I mean, not because I'm like, separation of church and state, but I wonder what purpose it would really.
Now, if the question was, should they
serve.
have a state religion?
Yeah,
That would be a little bit different.
Well,
Right.
I
it's
guess that's what
also-
they mean by church.
It's also a silly question because like anytime people think about these things, they're like, they imagine the church the way they'd want it. Well, guess what? Anytime the government does something, they don't do it the way you want
Yeah,
it to.
exactly.
yeah.
So it would be
Exactly.
like the Church of Pfizer. So when you start thinking about it, like, should the United States have a Church of Pfizer? No, probably not.
Yeah, like I don't want a church to be like the DMV.
or the Church of England, too. I mean, that's quote unquote a state church, though.
But that
you can even see there.
preceded the
Yeah.
existing government. It
Yeah.
wasn't, the Church of England wasn't created by the constitutional monarchy. It was,
Right.
it was formed.
Well, it was created by the king, by the monarchy, because he wanted to
have
get
you guys-
divorced.
Have you like looked into the relationship between the Pope and European kings?
Oh, yeah.
That was really interesting to me.
It still is very interesting.
Yeah.
There are no European kings left, but
No, there still are, but they don't rule the same way they did like 500 years ago.
right.
But I don't know if you probably thought more about this than I have, but if you actually look at like the Pope used to have an army. So that
Yeah.
used to be like a country
Yep.
or like a consortium of states called the Papal States. And then what I think was going on is like all of these European kings wanted to maintain their legitimacy in the eyes of their subjects. But there was no mass media at the time. So the only way they could disseminate a message to many people at scale was to figure out what the religion was of their subjects and communicate through those channels. And so that's why I think it was incumbent upon the European kings to have a strong relationship with the Pope so that they could get like good PR every Sunday. And then, but then the Pope would be like, yeah, I'm gonna give you good PR, but my agency's fees are like pretty expensive. So, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Oh, that's
and
an
I
interesting
think
way to
that's
think
where a
about
lot
it.
of the disagreements came between the Pope and the European kings. I haven't actually studied it. I just have a,
There's some
understanding
people
of
in the
human
comments
nature.
who probably are a little bit more studied about it, who I'm sure. So yeah, put that in the comments, guys, if you have any awareness of that.
That's just me understanding human nature and saying like, this is what I think
that makes
happens.
sense. This is from Noah Bax. I'll ask you one question, Gina, first. Can you tell us what guns you shot at the range if you've gone to the range yet? Did you go to the shooting range?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
No, we're going next week.
Okay,
We're
so
going-
then forget it.
Yeah, in a few days.
But the same person asks, should voting day be a federal holiday so all Americans can vote in person?
Yeah, it should. And it should be one day.
One day.
One day.
One day.
Yeah.
So why don't they just make the 6th that day?
Yeah.
Because that's election day. Just
It's election
make it that
day.
day.
I
Everybody
don't
has-
think it should be a federal holiday.
Why?
I'll take the other on it.
You two are good. You two should have your own show where you just disagree with each other all the
The
time.
United States, the United States was created as a republic, not a democracy.
Correct.
And I think it's very important to understand the dangers of democracy, and why the United States was created as a republic and not a democracy. So I do think that very small impediments to casting votes are important to the functioning of a republic. And if you're incapable as an individual to overcome a very small impediment to casting your ballot, I actually think that the ultimate outcome will be more qualified candidates being selected.
You would hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, abolish universal voting privileges still.
Oh,
We
yeah,
need to
yeah.
make that a t-shirt, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it needs to be privileges, not rights, because voting
What
is
should
not
the
a
shirt
right.
say? Say you shouldn't
Abolish.
vote.
That's not bad. A hat that says you shouldn't vote would
Don't
be good.
vote.
Don't vote.
No, well,
Yeah.
you said you want people to vote, but just not everybody to vote.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't want everyone to
So
vote.
what-
But I do think, this is going to sound bad, but I think that the people who would pass the test, who would be allowed to vote, like, I'm sorry, but they are a certain, not class, but they are a certain demographic of society that are respected.
Should we make a shirt that
Not
says
necessarily,
you have the
because-
tampon IQ?
No, because if you think about
Glazed donut.
who's going to pass the test, these tests are going to mimic university tests. Like the fairest test would be just a math test.
Yeah, we talked about that. Remember we talked
Well,
about
that's the
what
whole
the tests
problem,
would be
is that
and who would make the test.
Obviously, this is, with the test would be something that, it's
One of the test questions would be like, how many genders are you? Oh, you said 2? Wrong. You can't vote.
Right.
no, but it's
like-
like a civics test, And I actually think we need to go back to maybe land ownership.
Oh, I pissed
Property
I pissed so
ownership.
many people off on Twitter when I said, the voting should require $10,000 of assets and a 600 credit score. Like, not onerous to where a majority of people couldn't have
It's
that.
not bad.
600
it's
is
like-
a bit low. I think it needs to be higher than 600.
No, what I'm saying.
yeah, I know what you're
I'm
saying.
saying is, I'm not setting these thresholds to be high and unattainable. I'm
Right,
setting
right.
them to be so
Totally
low.
attainable, yeah.
I'm setting them to be so low that if you're not there, we can surmise that you either don't have enough life experience, maybe you're younger, you haven't had the chance to accumulate $10,000 of assets, or you've made a series of poor decisions over the course of the last several years that make it incredibly likely that you're not going to select a candidate who will benefit a majority of citizens.
I like
Yeah.
I
that.
pissed off a lot of people. And
Yeah,
it turns
people
out a
hate
lot
to
of
hear
people have
that.
bad credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody once, when I was talking about abolishing universal voting privileges, they said, well, you're really fascist. And I said, you just proved my point. You're so stupid that you think that it's fascist to not have universal voting privileges. Like,
Right.
that's saying that the United States was founded as a fascist country, because we didn't all just have universal voting privileges when this country was founded.
Right.
So she proved my point.
Joseph Bowen, does Alex or any of you use supplements in your diet? And if so, what do you recommend?
I'll take that. Depends how deep in the game you are. If you're just getting started, I don't recommend really any supplements. I recommend eating protein dominant real food when you're hungry until you're full. That being said, I do take supplements, but if you guys have seen my before and after pictures, I've made 95% of my progress without taking supplements. I happen to be 36 years old. And if you're 36 years old and 5-point-something% caliper body fat and deadlifting, 500 and something pounds, running miles at a sub 6-minute pace, it tends to be hard to continue to get better after that at some point. And so that's kind of why I've started dabbling in the supplement game. And I take, a D3, K2, fish oil, magnesium, zinc, copper, which helps with zinc processing. Just started taking creatine again a couple weeks ago. But like, again, and I take some collagen protein a few times a week. But again, like if your mind is on the supplements, you're probably not getting the food right.
Yeah.
And the food's gonna take you, 95% of the way.
Do this for both of you because both of you exercise. What is your opinion? I should. The most underrated / underutilized exercise? What in your opinion?
This isn't an exercise, but I say this for the everyday person who is probably exercising sporadically and sitting a lot, is just a passive hang. I mean, that also goes into like just a resting squat. Like those two, I wouldn't call them exercises, but tasks are a better word.
Okay.
I think they're the most underutilized and the most useful tasks to incorporate for health and longevity in terms of the way that you move. Like hanging, everyone should get a pull-up bar at home. And if you can work up to hanging 60 seconds at a time, that's great. But I mean,
Just hang?
just hang. It's so good for the shoulders. It's good for the spine. It's really, really, really good for the shoulders. We spent all day like
Do
this.
you let your
It's all-
legs hang too, or do you bring them up to your butt? Your feet to
No,
your
you
butt?
let dead hang, so everything hangs. But of course, most people won't even be able to hang for 10 seconds. So
Really?
you can start with having your feet lightly propped up on something.
Okay.
It's also really excellent for grip strength. And for people who, I get questions a lot, like women ask me, I really want to do a pull-up. And I say, well, can you hang for 30 seconds?
Oh, you can
And they
hang.
can't even hang for 5 seconds.
They
I'm
can't even hang.
How do you expect to pull yourself up on a bar if you can't even hold your own body weight on the bar for 10 to 30 to 60 seconds?
Yeah.
So it's good from a
Why are you wearing
training
a
perspective.
backpack? You can't even read. It's Conor McGregor said that to Floyd Mayweather.
So like it's good from a training perspective, but it's also good from just a kind of like a primal movement perspective. So I would say the dead hang and the resting squat.
What do you think?
Based on most people's skeletal structures, I would say a TRX row, body weight row. And reverse hypers actually put out an Instagram reel on this a couple days ago. But reverse hypers are essentially an RDL, Romanian deadlift alternative, where you're going to keep your chest flat on a table, but then move your legs and kick them
God, I
backwards.
want
Yeah.
those machines at home.
And so the benefit of it is you work your glutes and you work your hamstrings, two muscles that are likely weak from sitting in chairs for a long time. And then the other benefit compared to a Romanian deadlift is it doesn't put as much stress on your lower back. The reason why I would suggest rows, TRX rows for people, is just because if you're typing on a computer a lot and you do it for 20 years in a row, chances are you're going to have some degree of kyphosis, some degree of upper cross syndrome, and that's going to lead to some nerve impingements and extra stress on your shoulders that we don't want. And so basic movements, I would say those two. And I'd like to throw out a little humble brag that your boy Alex got 60-second single hand hang on both arms on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a very good accomplishment.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to ask this question, but I mean, just try not to go into an in-depth answer. We'll try and keep this as succinct as
Depends.
possible. Which is more important, diet or exercise?
Diet.
I think it depends what you want to do, but usually diet.
Okay.
Right.
Usually
So
diet,
I will usually say diet. Now, that being said, oftentimes like the easiest thing for people to change is usually diet. But for the people who are too stubborn to change their diet, the easiest way to get them to change their diet is by putting them on an intense training program. Because there's a couple different catalysts that can lead to people changing their diets. Number one, they think they're fat and they want to change that and they don't really want to work out, or maybe they do and they're willing to change their diet. But that's hard. It requires proactive effort to like conscientiously change the way you're eating food for an end goal. If you tell somebody, hey, we're going to have intense training tomorrow morning and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for 90 minutes, but you know one thing that's going to make it easier? Sleeping well. You know another thing that's going to make it easier? Drinking a lot of water.
Right.
You know another thing that's going to make it a lot easier? Eating proper food.
Yeah.
Well, if you go about making dietary changes because you realize that it's going to make training easier, then which is more important? It's like, did the training change your diet? Because my whole approach to training and the reason why people find what I do and what I preach to be so simple is I'm merely trying to reorganize priorities in such a way that you have to focus on as few things as feel like you're focusing on. So if you're adjusting your diet, but your focus is on your training and you're just adjusting your diet because it makes training easier, then maybe you only have one thing to change, which is your training. Even though you're changing 2, it feels like you're changing 1. And so whenever I'm working with people one-on-one or in a group setting, I want them to make the smallest amount of perceived changes. So I'm going to sequence what I tell you to do in such a way that it feels like I'm not asking you to do as much.
Okay.
And also, just to add on to that, like in terms of longevity, like also exercise is a very modern concept. It's very modern, so it's like when we're talking about people who live for a long time and who are very healthy longevity, like they're not in the gym every single day. So if you had to choose between the two, and obviously when you're talking about diet versus exercise, like exercising all the it'll improve your it'll improve your immune system, but it's not going to like give you great gut health.
Right.
It's a lot of the things that come from longevity and physical health. It's really mostly going to come from your diet.
Okay, let's do a men's club question from Justin. Alex, do you like to bake? I see a lot of cooking, but not much baking from you.
I don't bake much just because.
Bake, you bitch.
Yeah, what kind of protein? What kind of foods have protein that you bake, man?
Chicken pot pie.
No, I bake. I bake
True.
baked
Shepherd's
pasta.
pie.
I cook baked pasta. That's actually
Lasagna?
one of the. No, it's similar, but it's not.
You sounded confused by baked pasta. Have you never heard baked pasta?
No.
So
Or
it's
like baked ziti?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's
Okay.
delicious.
Yeah. I've never heard anyone say
bomb.
baked pasta.
It's in my recipe book.
Okay.
It's a
Definitely
staple
not
meal,
Italian.
especially
Right,
when I'm trying to gain weight. Is baked pasta. It's a really easy way to eat. Another 600-800 calories. Outside of that, like I bake pizza. That's about it.
Okay.
Right? And then, but I prefer char on my meats.
Yeah.
And you can't get char when you're baking them.
Broil them maybe a little bit, but it's not
Yeah,
the
I
same.
could
It's
see
not the
broil,
same.
yeah.
Yeah. Carly's making us a shepherd's pie tomorrow. And isn't that great? Guys, get married and you can have a wife. They cook for you. You don't have to say anything.
Or
They
you
just
can
do
just
it.
marry Alex and he'll cook for you.
Yeah,
Won't bake.
I haven't quite
Won't
figured
bake.
out how to take advantage of that one. I'm the chef.
This is from Gig Kazmo. You told me it's Gizmo. I'm not going to ask your question now because you tried to correct me in your question. So next time. From Chris Yang. What's the gayest exercise out there?
Exercise?
Yeah.
Burpees.
Burpees?
Oh yeah, I hate burpees. I think burpees are stupid.
Burpees are so gay.
Stupid or they're gay?
Well, I haven't seen like gay people do them. Is that what he's asking for?
No, like which exercise do you do makes you gay?
Burpees.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
Why do you hate burpees so much?
They're gay.
Why? What makes them gay? I don't do them, so I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just curious.
No, I honestly, from a serious perspective, I think burpees are totally pointless.
Okay, so
Totally pointless.
You're in the gym. What
Yeah.
do you see someone doing? You're like, oh, that's so gay. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
There's actually a long list of things that I would put on, say are gay in the gym, but
Well, I think like if gay means like, what are you doing? Right.
Yeah, I think that's what it
okay.
means. I think that's what it means.
Alex is killing me with this.
So
He's really trying to understand.
what I would say when I go to the gym, my what the fuck moments are like people who will sit on a machine for like 90 seconds. They're going to do 20 reps in 90 seconds. They'll take like 15 seconds off and then they'll do another 20 reps in 90 seconds. And it's like, that's not doing anything for you, dude. What are you doing?
Were you gay?
That, I haven't quite made that leap in as far as my assessment of the people doing it.
Gina.
But perhaps we can explore that hypothesis next
my
time I'm at the gym. I can
God.
start taking field surveys.
This is what Ben Vogan said. How do you explain the decrease in deaths from heart disease over the past 80 years?
Smoking.
People have just stopped smoking?
Yeah.
Wait.
Decrease in deaths
Oh,
over the past
okay.
80
So you're
years
saying
from
that-
heart disease.
They stopped smoking.
Yes.
And that's why. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Despite all the tweets that I mentioned about smoking being cool, I don't actually think smoking's cool.
I do.
It is kind of cool.
It's cool.
I even hate to admit
It's
it.
inherently cool. You go back to,
So
I guess,
cool.
the first dude who decided I'm going to dry
Come
out this
on.
leaf.
All
And
right.
then I'm going to smoke
okay,
it.
let me clarify this.
Come on.
I'm sensing some disappointment in the audience. Cigarettes are cool. Smoking is not cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cigars are.
Like, come on, would Thomas Shelby be nearly as cool
If he didn't smoke,
a fag all
no,
the time?
he quit drinking.
That's
But
cool.
he smoked.
That's based.
Right.
but he smoked like a chimney.
I don't like cigars. I don't understand people's fascinations with cigars. I don't. It's like the whole whiskey thing.
Feels
You
a bit-
know that doesn't taste
Feels
good.
a bit kitschy to
Why
me.
are you doing it?
Yeah.
nicotine.
It's to look cool.
It's they
a
think
cigar.
that it looks cool.
I like the cigarillos.
Michael
the
Knowles.
thinner
You and
cigars.
Michael Knowles should have a conversation about that.
Yeah, Michael Knowles.
Because
I'd like to talk to Michael Knowles about a whole bunch of things.
but he's not allowed to come on.
No. Michael Knowles, I'll make you a prayer kneeler if you come on the show. I was planning on doing it anyway.
Weren't you gonna? I'll ask you later.
Yeah, that got called off.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. He would love to come to our Christian panel, but I don't.
He's going to get invited.
Is he allowed to?
I don't know. I'm going to invite him. We'll see what happens.
We should invite Alex.
Do you want to come to a Christian theology panel?
When?
December 10th.
10th.
He can just come on the show again too while you're out here.
What would I do? What do you imagine I would include? I would add to the Christian theology panel.
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh,
We'd
okay.
invite you to come watch
Give
it
him a
and be a
booth.
part of the event.
Give him a booth, and
Oh,
he
do you
can
want an
sell-
event? You can sell your workout stuff.
Probably, yeah.
Was
Yeah,
that
definitely.
demeaning? You can sell your workout stuff. I just tried to boil it down to like a whole.
Sounded
thing
a
that
bit
you do.
passive aggressive.
Yeah, sorry, your workout. Why don't you sell your workout stuff?
Oh, if I'm
Fucking
open
in
that
shape
weekend, I'll
idiot.
come hang.
Like,
Fucking jock.
If you don't
Jock.
if you don't make me wear a shirt, and if you let me cook food inside the event for people who want to sample it, and
you would do it?
That's actually not a
consider
bad
it.
idea.
Kind of like we're pimping him out. Like, hey man, take
Well,
your
he-
shirt off
it's
and start cooking
voluntary.
for people.
It's
At a
voluntary.
Christian panel,
Right.
that's not very Christian.
It's consensual.
Yeah.
yeah, I could just cook steaks, and then people could smell my steaks and then buy my recipe books. Maybe if I could sell like 5 recipe books an hour.
Be great if we had a meat sponsor of the show that could do that for, they'd provide the steaks.
Right.
We had one.
But
Not
And then
anymore.
too bad.
They went from good to bad
Yeah. Bad ranchers.
because they're not even grass fed.
No, they're they're grain
They're
finished.
grain. Oh, I think they're not even grass fed, grain finished. They're just like
They're just grain.
fed.
Yeah. I pre-ordered my turkey for Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
Oh, dang, already?
$130.
I started my Christmas shopping already.
Really?
Yeah.
This is like a cooler show rather than talking about important things.
This is the important stuff.
Yeah.
Turkeys and Christmas shopping.
Yeah, Carly sent me a text. She said, "Oh, here's the code for $20 off." I say, "Okay, I'm spending $150 on a turkey."
Where'd you
Only
order it?
orders more than $200 get $20 off. What type of shit is this? I'll tell you exactly who I ordered it from.
Yeah.
I don't want to shut them out. I don't want them to hear this and then they give me like a faulty turkey.
A fake turkey, a
Yeah.
soy turkey,
Oh, here's a turducken.
turducken.
I don't
I
get
heard
that.
turduckens are probably more expensive than turkeys. I'm gonna go say.
Is it a type of turkey or is it turkey and duck?
Turkey and duck and chicken.
Yeah.
But
Ducks are expensive. You know. I think
ducks are.
I would.
I love duck breast. One of my favorite things in the world is making duck breast. It's so good.
the
I
last
think
time
I'm just gonna eat duck for Thanksgiving. I don't actually like turkey.
I was going to
Good for
ask you if you
Christmas.
like
People who
turkey.
say they like turkey lie.
What do you eat on
We
Christmas?
are lying. We don't like
Wait,
it.
you're Chinese.
Steak. Yeah.
You get Chinese food.
Yeah, but I don't eat Chinese food. I
Why
eat
not?
Yeah,
steak,
but on
'cause I eat
Christmas, that's a
steak.
thing. Chinese food on
racist.
Christmas.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the
Fa ra 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 ra.
Fa ra 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 ra.
No,
Deck the hall with boughs of holly.
Riri.
Riri.
Riri. Stop it.
Are you offended?
no.
Okay.
Wait, are you what? What'd you ask?
Is he offended because he's Chinese?
Okay.
Part Chinese.
No.
Two factions that control the world:
This
the
is really
Chinese and the
getting away
Jews.
from us.
Is Alex
I gotta go.
Feinberg?
Right. So I'm the unofficial.
No, you have 5 minutes.
You're right. I got
I've
5
been
minutes.
appointed by the CCP as well as
Let's see if we can piss off
Jewish
Adriano. We all
delegates
start
to speak
talking
on
at the
their
same time,
behalf.
so he's got to switch cameras constantly, or he just leaves it on one camera.
I wish. It takes a lot to get him mad. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you just want to end it there?
Is there one more good question?
Yeah, there was.
Next time we should do a live stream with Alex.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be fun.
Okay, Gizmo. I mean, you've answered this kind of in your other answers. Which is more important, eating good food, 8 hours of sleep, or enough exercise? It seems like you did answer that before.
What are the options?
Eating more good food, 8 hours of sleep, or good exercise, or enough exercise.
If we had to choose
If you
one,
had to pick, which one is the most important?
I think I would
eating
still
good
go food. I think I
Yeah.
would still go food. What would Alex say?
It depends on what your alternatives are. Is it 8 hours a day versus 4 hours a day? Is it eat good food versus eat gas station food? Like I'd have to see the individual, right? If the individual is it's individual specific.
You don't like vague questions.
Yeah, it really depends on like
It's no fun.
Good to know.
where were you 12 months ago? Where are you right now? where are you on all of those things? And then like we can figure out what the easiest adjustments to make are on all of them, and why are they mutually exclusive? You know, if you sleep, I guess if you only have an extra hour a day, what are you going to dedicate it to? Like, I don't know. It depends.
I like Alex's rapport with us.
He's got a good rapport.
He handles our nonsense well.
6 years in elite locker rooms means I can.
He handles the
walk
gay
through.
questions well.
Yeah. It's fine.
So guys, next time we have Alex on, just give him more gay questions.
I had a tiff with someone because you know that thing that I posted to our stories where I don't like the people remixing stuff, and like, you ever see this trend on TikTok or Instagram where they'll take a video and they'll splice it so it's the video here and then they're here going like,
Oh, it's the duet on TikTok.
yeah, it's like
One
that
of my
kind of thing.
tweets got, it was actually my tweet about the $10,000 in assets.
Did someone do that to that
Yeah,
tweet?
somebody with a big, like a 600,000 follower TikTok channel did that. And like all my friends were like, dude, you got like.
Yeah, the guy who posted this specific one got really mad and was like, yeah, well, why do you do a podcast if it's so bad? And someone was like, you can see the reflection of his toilet in his sunglasses when he's doing those remix reels. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, so did the person who did the duet with you, were they bashing what you said, or were they?
No, all it was a.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Like
the
that.
duets take off on TikTok.
Why?
Stupid.
Why don't you just post the video? Why do you have to sit there going,
I don't know, but the TikTokers love it. Love it.
I hate this world so much. If I could, I'd lock myself in my office and just pray the rosary all day.
But you
rather than
can't because you have a daughter and a wife. Is that why?
They'd go in there. They'd
you
come in
would
there.
all be locked in
Yeah.
together. That sounds miserable.
That's called kidnapping, I think, actually. I'm pretty sure. Find a state where that's legal before you go ahead.
They'd
Might be
want to
legal
be
in
in there.
Tennessee.
They'd want to be in there.
Might be legal in South Dakota.
Say no looking at remixed reels. I think those people should be arrested.
The people who do the duets?
Yeah.
I did a duet once, so.
I did one too.
Okay, well, then we should both be arrested.
Back when I was on TikTok and then before we got... Okay, you got to go, right?
Is there one last question that's good?
No, that's it. That we actually answered all the questions because I
Great.
forgot to put the question box on the first story.
Oh, okay.
And then like an hour later, I was like, ooh, why aren't we getting any questions? And then I forgot.
This is good, though. Well, maybe Alex will be our first guest that's come on 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want to catch me before then, follow me on Twitter or Instagram, Alex Feinberg1, Fein.
We're really not a needy show. We'll take whoever wants to be on here. No,
Well,
not really. No, not really. No, sorry. I retract it.
Please stop DMing us and asking to come on the show.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Elon.
Right.
Yeah, you can
Why
DM us,
would he
Elon.
DM us? But
Because
still.
he loves the show.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I DM'd Kanye. It didn't go through.
Oh, yeah. I DM Katie Hopkins because I don't have her
I have her email.
anymore.
I'll
I
dig
DM
it
her
up.
to try and come on. I DM Brett Cooper, who you know, Brett, you like our stuff on Instagram, okay? So we know you at
We
least
like
are
Brett,
aware of the
yeah.
show. Come on the show,
Come
Brett.
on, Brett. I
Yeah.
think Brett, we'd have fun with Brett.
Yeah. To say to hell with, whatever, just come on.
Cool.
You can come on. People being owned by corporations.
By the,
I'm not saying it.
I'm not saying it either,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm not doing, now that the camera's on me, I'm not doing it. Nice try, honey.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
It's been 5 minutes too long. Bye.
Bye.